Headlines frame Greenland's future as a simple choice. Will they leave or will they stay?
But that binary focus misses the real geopolitical signal hiding inside the noise.
Autonomy here is not just a destination. It is a high-stakes lever for bargaining power.
3 players, Nuuk, Copenhagen, and Washington, are locked in a quiet game of poker. Today, we map exactly how that lever works before the mechanism snaps.
Why care? Because Thule Air Base is the northern eye of America's missile defense. Geographically, Greenland anchors the GIUK gap, controlling naval access to the Atlantic.
A shift in Nuuk's political alignment changes the security architecture of the hemisphere.
The stakes are massive. Now let's look at the confirmed facts on the ground.
Legally, Greenland operates under the Self-Government Act of 2009.
Nuuk controls the police, the courts, and, crucially, its own natural resources. Copenhagen retains control of foreign policy, defense, and the currency.
Denmark provides an annual block grant of roughly $600 million. This single subsidy covers more than half of Greenland's entire public budget. Full independence is not a fringe idea. It is the stated goal of major parties.
The Danish constitution allows for separation if Greenland chooses to take it.
So the political will exists. The gap preventing it is purely economic. To understand that gap, we must define the specific financial mechanics. First, the block grant. It is the financial lifeline that stabilizes the island. The grant is adjusted for inflation, but it does not grow automatically with needs. Second, zero tolerance. This refers to the ban on mining radioactive elements.
Since rare earths often mix with uranium, this policy dictates economic speed.
These are the rules of the game. Now, meet the players trying to bend them. The board has 4 main players, each with a specific goal and a hard constraint. First, Nuuk. Their goal is full political sovereignty without economic collapse. Their constraint is a population of 57,000 managing a continent. Second, Denmark. They want to maintain the unity of the realm and Arctic influence. Their constraint? They cannot force loyalty without triggering a colonial backlash. Third, the United States. The goal is simple: secure the radar, deny the rivals. The constraint is diplomatic. Washington cannot simply buy the island, despite trying. Fourth, the mining industry. They want access to the deposits and legal certainty. Their constraint is the timeline. Arctic infrastructure is expensive and slow to build. Watching from the sidelines are the EU and NATO, needing stability above all else. Nuuk uses US interest to pressure Denmark, while Denmark uses it to stay relevant. This triangular tension creates the mechanism we call the independence lever. Here is how the physics of this lever work. It starts with the independence paradox. To leave Denmark, Nuuk must replace that $600 million annual grant.
That requires massive foreign capital. But who writes the check?
If Nuuk entertains offers from Beijing for airports or mines, security alarms ring.
Washington and Copenhagen fear a rival foothold deep inside the North American zone.
To block rivals, the West steps in with counteroffers, aid, and infrastructure deals. The louder Nuuk talks about independence, the higher the price of loyalty becomes.
We saw this when the US funded civilian projects directly, bypassing Copenhagen.
Or when Denmark agreed to co-finance new airports to keep foreign lenders out. The threat of leaving effectively pays for the improvements needed to stay.
It is a delicate balance.
So, who is winning this game right now? Let's score the current geopolitical game across 3 distinct time horizons. Short-term, Nuuk wins attention and aid. Washington secures its critical radar rights.
Midterm, Copenhagen bears the stress. They pay the bills while managing the friction.
Long-term is undefined. Independence survives only if the mines actually profit. This balance can break in 3 ways. Let's map the future scenarios. Scenario A is the golden handcuffs. This is the path of least resistance. The trigger? Global mining prices drop, or Arctic logistics prove too expensive. Facing a budget gap, Nuuk pivots. Rhetoric cools down. Stability takes the lead. Denmark sighs in relief and keeps the block grant flowing without new conditions.
The US shifts strategy, funding education and consulates rather than buying land.
The result is high autonomy, but no separation. The handcuffs are gold, but real. Watch for 2 things: delayed mining permits and quiet, multi-year budget deals. In this world, stability wins. Radical independence movements lose momentum. But what if the money comes from somewhere else? That brings us to Scenario B. Scenario B is the bidding war. This is the path of high friction. The trigger. A major non-Western investor offers to build key infrastructure. Nuuk listens, seeing a rare chance to break its financial dependence.
Washington and Copenhagen react instantly, citing national security risks.
They move to block the deal, using legal vetoes or heavy pressure.
Nuuk pushes back. If we cannot take their money, you must pay us the difference.
The result is diplomatic gridlock. Trust erodes between the 3 capitals.
Watch for leaked complaints in the press and stalled defense negotiations. Here, Nuuk proves its leverage, but burns through its political goodwill. Finally, Scenario C, the resource breakout. This is the game changer.
The trigger is a massive, high-grade discovery that is actually cheap to extract.
Suddenly, the block grant mathematics collapse. Fiscal independence becomes real. Denmark loses its primary lever. Influence can no longer be bought with subsidies. Nuuk accelerates the timeline, moving from someday to a concrete date. the U.S. scrambles to secure exclusive contracts before the global market opens up.
But caution is required. History is full of Arctic booms that went bust on costs.
The signal to watch? A rapid sequence of approved exploitation licenses.
If this hits, the map is redrawn. The lever snaps, the door opens.
But for now, the timeline remains the greatest unknown on this map. Will voters actually trade a guaranteed safety net for geopolitical risk? To spot the trend, track these 3 concrete signals over the next year. First, watch the coalition strength in the next Greenlandic election. Second, track the Danish budget for any changes to the grant terms. Third, look for new U.S. funding lines aimed specifically at Nuuk.
Greenland proves that autonomy is not just a flag. It is a geopolitical lever.
But for that lever to move the world, it needs a solid fulcrum of real investment.
Until the check clears, the map stays frozen. I'm your host, and this is the map.
Which signal do you trust more? The Danish grant or the Arctic mines? Comment below.